Hey, everybody, how are you? Happy Monday. Happy President's Day Monday. I hope that you are enjoying a long weekend, a very wonderful long weekend. It's been a minute since I've been on here. I've been reading excerpts from my book, little by little. And the book is like a 65,000 word book about my entire Christian testimony, my entire adult life, lived with bipolar disorder, and all the amazing things God has done in my life. He really healed me and has brought me through quite the dark tunnel. So I'm reading today from chapter 4, which is called La La Land Wasn't Easy. I'm reading excerpts from the part where I discuss what my job life was like in LA. So away we go. Working horrible jobs in LA became a relentless pattern. Several of them were sales jobs, which involved an endless amount of cold calling all over the unforgiving city. I used to sell telecom for a GTE and Pac Bell competitor. At one point, the company assigned me the Compton territory. Yes, the famous birthplace of Dr. Dre and Kendrick Lamar. But I knew little about it at the time. I mean, they did tell me it had a high crime rate, but then again, so did East Cleveland. And I'd spent a lot of time there, usually singing. So I really had no fear. My tall, thin, blonde, runway model-looking sales partner and I walked for hours in business suits comprised of modestly short skirts, tailored jackets, and heels. We probably stood out like sore thumbs. We walked in and out of every office park we could find, seeking small companies whose telephone service we could acquire. We were not real successful on that venture. And it wasn't just the Compton territory. I also hit what seemed like every high-rise building in downtown Los Angeles, knocking on what seemed like every office door. And it was exhausting to have nearly everyone slammed in my face. Selling telecom was absolutely brutal. Every closed door brought with it the pressure of falling short of my monthly sales quota, and with that came even more stress and the mounting fear of failing to sustain myself financially. I pretty much lived hand to mouth, and I used to joke that I was always one paycheck away from being homeless, or worse, sent back to Cleveland. I eventually left the field of telecom and moved on to the equally stressful job of selling advertising for the LA Weekly, an alternative newspaper with an eclectic staff and client base. This also involved a dreaded amount of cold calling, but on the brighter side, it was a lot more fun. The sales staff partied together in Hollywood at hot spots like the Chateau Marmont, and we had trade deals with some upscale restaurants where we socialized and dined at no cost. My favorite one was a high-end seafood restaurant in Beverly Hills called Crustacean. I loved it, not only for the $122 Maine lobster that the LA Weekly paid for most of, but also for the 500-gallon fish tank in the floor that gave me vertigo if I dared look down. It was chic. My second favorite restaurant was Spago, where everyone who was anyone patronized. I can remember sitting at the bar one night with my visiting sister, just a few seats away from Tony Curtis. We tried not to stargaze, but it was very difficult, especially when moments later, Diana Ross walked in. Yeah, working for the LA Weekly was a gas. My first client was Larry Flint, who was opening a new Hustler store on Hollywood Boulevard. And I can remember standing outside looking at scantily clad mannequins in the window, who were clearly mocking me for my conservative sales clothing. The next thing I knew, a vintage Rolls Royce pulled up with Larry Flint and his brother inside. His brother had an Ohio State t-shirt on, and both of us alumni, we had an instant conversation starter. He introduced me to Larry, who was friendly, but all about business. Now, the good news is I got the account, and needless to say, I met my sales quota for the first few months on the Hustler store alone. I made some friends and a decent living for a while at the LA Weekly. Unfortunately, my health would not remain consistent. The stress was mounting, and I was becoming less and less effective on the job. Between that and some real debacles, like losing a $1,500 laptop, I was let go from the LA Weekly. And this was the beginning of a revolving door of jobs. I worked for the Closet Factory, selling and designing elaborate closets for rich people. I sold history books over the phone, and then I worked for Michael Oakes Archives, a famous photographer of just about every musical artist that you could think of, from Bob Dylan to the Beatles. Now, the pictures were fascinating, but the pay was crap. It sent me to waitressing again. Eventually, I got a great job at the Hertz Corporation. Finally, I had a fantastic account maintenance position that paid well, provided a company car with all its expenses, and it involved no cold calling. It was fantastic making friends in the office and taking leisurely 2-hour lunches every day. This job was low stress, and I was great at it, maintaining every Fortune 500 company account for which I was responsible and managing about $100,000 worth of their corporate travel. Then a strong dose of reality hit. Through no fault of my own, my only substantial stress-free sales job ended in 2001 because of September 11th. They called me into the office one day and told me they had to let good people go because corporate travel now was in significant decline. I had the largest territory in the office and never missed my sales quota at Hertz. In fact, I was 200% over when corporate headquarters ordered my sales manager to break up my territory among everyone else in the office and let me go. It was the first day job I cried over losing. Okay, so you got a little taste of what the job life was like in Los Angeles, California. It wasn't always glamorous. I mean, it was never glamorous, but it was quite the experience. I hope you'll check out this video and share it with anyone you know. Thank you for letting me share my story.